a whole lot of signatures. 1,400 Black women have signed a letter condemning Dems who are against Biden, put up the picture full mask. So per the Hill, more than 1,400 Black women and allies have indicated their support for President Biden and Vice President Harris. Now, this story has a lot of twists and turns. You don't want to miss a beat here, okay? So in a letter released Thursday, it highlights the fact that millions of Americans cast ballots for Biden and Harris in the primary.
With millions watching and many people benefiting from this program called Indisputable, we just need 1% of the viewers to become a paid member so we can continue to bring this content to you. Now back to the show.
The women said attempts to change the ticket, disregard, and circumvent the will of millions of voters who participated in a democratic process. That's something that the mayor made a point of last time we discussed this. The letter is signed by Black powerhouses like Carol Mosley Braun, first African-American woman elected to the Senate, my former mayor of Atlanta, Keisha Lance Bottoms, and a good friend. You have Melanie Campbell, chair of the Power Ballot Action Fund, and many others, okay? So the number of 1,400 women may seem small in the context of national politics, but it's not just 1,400 women, it's 1,400 women in executive leadership position and highly influential, okay? That was by design. So the Hill reports their letter follows weeks of Democrats calling for the ousting of Biden, wanting Biden to remove himself from the ticket after a disastrous debate performance. So this week, you had more. Representative Adam Schiff, Democrat out of California, added his voice to the cause while reports surfaced of former Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer pressuring him to drop out as well. Some Senate Democrats have also raised concerns about the Democratic National Committee's plan to certify Biden's nomination for president ahead of the August convention. But the letters, the signatures argue, those who signed it argue the following, quote, the Biden-Harris administration is running on a solid record of historic legislation or legislative accomplishments and a commitment to finish their agenda to improve the lives of all Americans, protect our rights, freedoms, and democracy, the letter states. Quote, further, we believe it is unfair and disruptive to judge President Biden for having a bad 90-minute debate performance against a serial liar who wants to destroy democracy and be a dictator and chief. And I'm going to add to that, the commentators who did the debate, they're not bad. They were just bad that night. And by design, because basically they had to agree with the Trump campaign to not press Trump on his lies in order for Trump to be there. So obviously they agreed to this, which made them look very bad that night. They didn't get fired from their jobs, but they were bad by every estimation, every matrix, every measure. They did not challenge the blatant lies that were told on that stage. Okay, so history is a great teacher, according to the letter, and has taught us that a divided house will fall. The women wrote Thursday. As Black women, we are uniquely aware of the very real threat a second Trump term poses to our country and especially to our community. But this is not a moment to give in to fear. Instead, we must unify around our deep belief in our values and our ability to effectively engage voters and win up and down the ballot in 2024. Biden has been hoping to rebuild support among Black voters as his numbers fall with the demographic. Though a new survey released this week shows 64% of Black women said they will vote for Biden if the election were held today, strategists have warned that continued infighting within the party will drive his support down. That's correct. That is correct. It will. Quote, history also reflects that Black women are the most reliable voting bloc for Democrats. When Black women vote in record numbers, Democrats win the White House, U.S. Senate, U.S. House, governorships, state legislatures, mayor's races, and other local races across the nation. When Black women lead, organize, mobilize, encourage, and influence our families, spouses, partners, nieces, nephews, and neighbors to own their power and vote, Democrats win. The letter continued. They are correct. Now is the time for the Democratic Party to stop the attacks against their own presidential nominee, that, quote, we the people voted for and focus on defeating the real threat to our democracy, and that is Donald Trump, the letter concluded. Now, I got another twist and turn here. Now, remember, the genesis of this is not simply the presidential election. The genesis of this are local congressional races per district inside of states, some Senate races per state, and then you also have donors, money. Some people have decided to take the money away because of Biden being in the race. So these are Democratic donors, a lot of money. So per the Independent, another twist and turn. New York rep, AOC, went on Instagram live early on Friday morning to share her thoughts on Joe Biden's floundering re-election campaign and warning that many of those who want the president to drop out of the race they also want Vice President Kamala Harris off the ticket too. Here it is.
I'm gonna say what a lot of these folks aren't saying. I'm just gonna say it. If you think that there is consensus among the people who want Joe Biden to leave, that they will support Vice President Harris, you would be mistaken. And I'm gonna say that because if they're gonna come out and say all their little things on background off the record, but they're not gonna be fully honest, I'm gonna be honest for them. I'm in these rooms. I see what they say in conversations. A lot of them are not just interested in removing the president. They are interested in removing the whole ticket.
How, Sway? How? Okay. Host, commentator, Reese Colbert, who's also a colleague of mine at Sirius XM Radio, would take to X writing, quote, Democratic donors and elites have a choice if President Biden steps aside. Choose whiteness or choose democracy. Stepping over the most qualified person to be POTUS, Vice President Kamala Harris, for a white is right ticket would be catastrophic. I know many Dems look at our votes as given, but FAAFO, around and find out if you want to just how huge of a miscalculation that would be. She elaborated in this video. Here it is.
Y'all must be out your mind on that crack pipe if you think for 1 second that y'all gonna be able to skip over Vice President Kamala Harris and install an all-white ticket, a Josh Shapiro, Whitmore ticket, whatever that ain't happening, Captain. Not on our watch. Listen, let me tell you something to you Democratic donors, you elites. You're gonna have to choose whiteness or democracy. They not gonna go hand in hand this election. If you choose whiteness, Trump wins. That's what the Trump people are choosing. They're choosing whiteness. If you choose democracy, we win. An all-white ticket has lost for the past 24 years for Democrats. The only ticket that wins is a diverse ticket. And you for sure are not skipping over the Vice President of the United States, the most qualified person to run for president and to be president outside of President Biden right now. There's no database, evidence-based. There's no record accomplishments-based argument for skipping over Vice President Kamala Harris. 79% of Democrats support her replacing Biden if he were not to be the nominee. So this isn't even something that the people are asking for. And polls show that she can beat Donald Trump. And if we got behind her, she would be blowing his ass out the water even more. So around and find out if you want to. If you want to go all in on whiteness, then fly that Klan flag. But around and find out what's going to happen if you over black people and you over Vice President Kamala Harris.
Her analysis is correct. And if you look at the modern context of our political back and forth, George W. Bush gets elected. Older white male, not the most brilliant crayon in the crayon box. America gets tired of it. What do? It's a contrast. They elect a brilliant young black Barack Obama. President Obama gets in. He's in for 2 terms, 8 years. Country has an opportunity to elect a woman. They elect the most disagreeable older white male they can find. Once again, a contrast to the ticket. Now, what's a contrast to Trump? The contrast to Trump is diversity. That's your contrast. That's your motivator. That's your friction. That's the point. If you come with this milquetoast BS, it will deflate any excitement that you have from those who will vote for you in record numbers. You have no path forward. Mr. Mayor, I think strategically they are correct here. And if, my goodness, I can't believe they're even considering it. If Biden is not there and Vice President Kamala Harris wants it, how in the hell do you muscle her away? Because you can't argue she's too old. You can't argue that she can't debate. You can't argue that she doesn't have the stamina to be president for 4 years.
Yeah, it's not about that anyway. I mean, there's this racist term that we use on our side of the aisle, and it's called electability. People always use electability when they want to turn their back on Black candidates. And this is what they're doing right now. They're pitting an argument that is not grounded in data, it's not grounded in historical evidence, it's not grounded in anything other than what white people feel at their core. Here's the problem. White people have not been the majority of Democratic-based voters, percentage-wise, since Black people have been allowed to sit at the party. In 1968, when we got seated, when Fannie Lou Hamer and those likes from Mississippi were able to be seated at the convention, we saw white people run from the party and not been the majority since then. I find it absolutely disgusting that on our side of the aisle, we say we are tired of money and influence over politicians. But right now we're trying to let George Clooney and the likes have a voice that is outsized when they don't represent the majority of our base voters. George Clooney, because he gave $27 million, think he has the right, or raised $27 million, he has a right to tell a party to drop the president. If this was happening, if a lobbyist was saying to a candidate or an elected official that, hey, this is my point of view and you about to push my point of view or else, we would be on fire. So how is this different? This is a rich white man who does not represent the party base going against 14 million voters who voted in the primary to elect this candidate. I also think it's disingenuous for Nancy Pelosi, who, I don't know if the world know it, is older than Joe Biden, Chuck Schumer, who talked to this man on a regular basis for the past 40 years probably, for them to sit and act like they just found out Joe Biden stutters and is old. He's been getting old since he was born. He was gonna be this age 4 years ago when they nominated him. It ain't like he just got to this age. It ain't like he just started stuttering. Give me a break. I also think it is absolutely delusional and disrespectful to the entire voting process to say that we can choose a candidate now 2 months out, 2.5 months out before people start voting, and that person has enough time to get elected. If that is the case, why do we spend a year and a half running for president if 2 months is enough? Yeah. It's disgusting and it's greedy and it's a power grab that is absolutely highlighted. And I would tell anybody to say it's only 1,400 sisters whose name is on that to think again, because name a poll that is including 1,400 Black people.
That's true.
And that is bigger than most polls size by themselves. Right. So when you have 1,400 Black people, Black women of influence saying this, then we're talking about sample size. And if you use that as a testament of what Black people feel in this country, then white people ought to shut the hell up before they cause a real problem. And then we get to hear all the Black people saying what was bleeped out in that video from the sister that works with you at Series.
You know, you make a great point because most of the national polls only will survey about 1,000 respondents that actually provide answers. And so this is indicative of a significant trend and feeling, a sentiment inside of the Black community. We're going to give you updates as they come.